All right, now joining us in studio, this guy is dominating the real estate market. The one thing we've known about Kurt Wannebo, he seems to be 60 to 90 days, not just ahead of the media, but really everybody in the market. There's 20,000 real estate licenses. This is a guy you go to for information. Kurt, good to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, we're halfway through.
We are halfway through the year at this time.
Let's do some backwards thinking.
Yeah.
Right? So recap the first half of 2016.
Overall, the real estate market's been an interesting one. I'll say this, the same amount of homes last year came on the market this year. So we're not any different in the amount of homes that have actually come on the market.
Oh, in the first half?
Yeah, first half.
Okay,
Yep.
So we're same there.
Same there. Same in regards to the amount of sales that are actually occurring. No big change there. It's almost even Steven. What we are seeing, however, is an increase in average sales price, average median sales price, and also the volume that's being done. So that means prices have been going up.
Okay.
This year, definitely higher in regards to appreciation so far. We're starting to see appreciation, and especially in the single-family homes, at 7–8%. Over the past 2 years, we've been around 5%, 6%. So it's been steadily increasing. Another thing that's much different is people keep talking about the inventory. The inventory is low, 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 and it actually is lower this time right now than it was this same time last year.
Why do you think that is?
Part of it is we had a huge May month, meaning lots of properties.
This year?
Yeah,
Okay.
Lots of properties. I had a huge May month. Almost every agent I've been talking to had a huge May month. May was a very big month for properties going into escrow.
Okay.
So we saw a tremendous, while the same amount of properties went on the market, same amount have been selling, a big chunk of them went into escrow during the month of May. So we're seeing a lot of activity that's occurring right now. This summer has probably been one of the best summers that I've seen in regards to activity right now. So with inventory lower, interest rates have even ticked down a little bit over the past several weeks. There's been a lot of activity. And I would tell you this, if you're on the market right now during this season, during this time of the year, if your property isn't receiving offers within 30 to 45 days, there's a reason why. Whether it be you're overpriced or doesn't show well, your agent, whatever the case may be. Yeah, we're seeing a lot of activity.
What do you think it usually is? Probably overpriced?
Depends.
For an agent that doesn't know what they're doing?
There's a multitude of variables.
Yep.
Price, how the property's marketed, how it's presented, the agent in and of itself. There's lots of variables. But overall, based on the activity that we're seeing in the past month or two, 6 weeks, you absolutely should be receiving offers.
What do you think over the next 6 months? Right, so that's a recap of the first half of the year, comparing it to last year. What do you think moving forward?
Well, one of the things I'm always coaching and training my team on is, little things that are happening that are definitely different in the marketplace. Okay?
Right. So the pulse of the market.
Pulse of the market, and a lot of that has to do with financing. I've been in here the past couple of months, and I've talked to you about different things I've seen in the lending space, such as people putting 10% down. I recently have closed deals with 5% down at the $1 million price point or over. I actually have clients right now who are pre-approved with a stated income loan, which I haven't seen. I haven't closed the deal on.
What lender is doing that? Can we disclose?
Yeah. Well, why? Because you want to find one or know of a resource?
I'm just curious. I mean, that's the program that. See, but I believe that the stated income loan was the one that shouldn't have disappeared. Now I know people think you've heard it called the liar loan. People overstating their income. The reality is there's self-employed people that are most qualified people in the country to buy a home. They can put money down, they have good credit, but because of the way their taxes work or disconnected their income, they aren't able to. That's what the intent of stated income was.
Right.
But it moved to the pizza boy saying he made 20 grand a month and buying $1 million house, which just wasn't true. People
always ask me, why did the market crash? Well, it wasn't one thing, it was several, or it was multiple things. Lots and lots of dominoes had to line up to have what occurred. Now, where we're at right now is, every month goes by, I start to see these creative loans come back around. And right now, the stated income loan is for people who make a certain amount of money and have a very specific profession. It's very heavily underwritten, but with the amount of transactions that we have occurring and the affordability, one thing I didn't mention is that while the prices are increasing, the affordability index is going down, right? There's less affordability. They're going to have to reach out eventually to a broader base of buyers.
Right.
And the only way that they can potentially do that is, start to relaxing up, developing product. Now, does that mean that I think that there's going to be a huge real estate market crash inevitably in the next year or two? No. I do believe that inevitably, real estate is cyclical. It does go up and down. There's no stopping that.
Yep.
But where we're at, we're probably not going to see a down market for probably at least 4, 5, 6, several years out. Part of that's because, one, there's been good lending practices for the past several years. Many people had to put 20% down, so there's a strong foundation there.
Yep.
But I am going to make a prediction here on the show,
okay,
which is I think it's very realistic that for the first time in many years, we will see double-digit appreciation in this county. Even if
wow, now I didn't expect you to say that.
Even if it's if what I'm seeing is happening right now continues on throughout this summer, it's very possible. For single family, I think we're already at almost 7% just for the year. And so whether it be just for a segment, whether it be single family or detached or attached homes, I think it's possible we see one of those segments reach double-digit appreciation. And if that happens and then happens consistently year after year, and we see the dominoes line up of all of these, interesting loans, pick your pay or whatever the case may be, or we see a political party come into president where they want to roll back Frank Dodd, you can definitely predict some laxing up in some of the lending guidelines, which would mean we could potentially reach the same scenario we did, but this would be several years out.
Well, here's the thing. You, of all people, have your fingers on the pulse of the market. The fact that you're trickling out this information, you're letting us know you're starting to see it, it doesn't mean it's going to go to a point where the pendulum has swung too far to one side and now you fog a mirror, you can get a loan. And that's the reality of what we saw many years ago. But as it starts to creep into the market, banks make their money by lending money. As you mentioned, affordability is down, so they're going to have to develop product for people to be able to buy homes.
That's true.
But when you start creating, before they were creating it, it was a money-making frenzy. It was a money-making frenzy on Wall Street and individual homeowners that were taking out 125% loans. I mean, absurd. But now there's that happy medium. You know what I mean? I feel like we're still there.
We're still there. There's a very happy medium. It's just, again, actually, it's happening a lot quicker than I expected. But to start seeing these types of loans come back so quickly over the course of just 6 months has been very, very interesting to me. Some people will ask me the question, do you think what happened before happen again? I don't know. Possibly. Some people will say, well, why would the banks ever allow that to happen again? Didn't the banks lose a lot of money? The answer to that is yes, there were some banks that failed and went under. However, there were others that were very smart throughout the entire process, and they made money on the way down just as they did up.
You can be a surfer and crash on that tidal wave, or you can ride it at the right time and cruise through it, right? So there's going to be banks that know how to navigate that market, and there's going to be banks that screw it up. But it is really, really important, and I guess here would be a great takeaway for the show. Kurt just came in here and gave you a good analysis of what has happened so far this year, a good idea of what he thinks will happen for the next 6, 12 months, even 5, 6, 7 years, I think you went out. Information is so important. Knowledge is power, and it's not something that sits still. We're always learning new things, the market's doing new things, and getting tailored advice as you navigate any marketplace, it's so important. Kurt's one of the best in the business, and of course we appreciate having you on the show.
Thanks for having me again.
All right, when we come back, we wrap things up with the Sewing Says segment and a last message, so stick around. We'll be back right here in just a moment.